Hey, this is Mike Byrnes with another episode of Business Bests. Happy to be coming back to you with some helpful advice for your business. I've talked about how important clients are before, and that sometimes if you have a client-first approach, your business is just going to be that much more successful because you'll have happy clients, they'll rave about you, you get new business. But one of the things that you need to do to have them feel really happy is to make them feel appreciated. They're all different types of things you can do within the client journey to make them feel like there's some gratitude and that they feel appreciated. So you could really map out what all those touch points are and then figure out where you're going to try to be better than the rest, better than your competitors or better than all industries. Because in reality, if you're working with wealthy people, they're getting great service wherever they go, hopefully. Whether they go on a trip or a cruise or they're staying in a nice hotel or they're buying a luxury mobile or they're getting your professional services, whatever it might be. They're always comparing you, right? So how can you make yourself feel, or how can you make them feel extra special, extra connected with you? So back to appreciation, how do you appreciate them and when do you do it? You can actually make a prospect feel appreciated right out of the gates. If they become a client, welcome them with a gift. Kind of figure out where all those milestones are in their life. Again, I've said this before, know them better than anyone else. But one of those things that are important within the year is the loss of a loved one. Are there other milestones, things that you can kind of always drip on each year on an annual basis? Or are there little things that come up within the year that you just use, like social media? We've talked about social media can be a really cool research tool on your clients to know what's going on in their lives and give you other opportunities to reach out and make them feel appreciated. But the holidays are a big one. This is where kind of naturally people give gifts. Thanksgiving is a wonderful time to make people feel appreciated. What follows over the next month or so with Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, and then New Year's Eve. Those are all kind of wonderful times to make your clients feel appreciated. So gifts are a big part of that strategy and wowing your clients. Depending on your industry, you might have some constraints of what you can and can't do. Make sure you find those out so I don't get you in trouble. But a lot of the industry, what they do is they give the little tchotchke item, a shirt, a jacket, a mug, whatever it might be, with the logo of the company. That's the bare minimum of what you should do. That's okay to give that stuff out occasionally, or maybe leave it out on a table and people can take it if they want it, because some people just will think that's junk. I know the thought process. You want to make people feel appreciated. Sometimes even the jacket's like a high-end jacket, and you think that wealthy client's going to wear it around, and they're going to be, your billboard, right? Like they're going to be out there displaying your company logo or your company name, and that could have this nice brand awareness factor, and that's kind of cool. If the jacket's nice, maybe that's kind of cool, but a really wealthy person might not want to do that, right? And they might not ever wear that type of thing. So it's a bit of a risk of that expense, and the real point of it is to make them feel appreciated. So if they think there's kind of a ulterior motive of what you're trying to do, they're not going to really feel that appreciated. So when it comes to gifts, I like to have a strategy, and you've heard me say this before, know your clients better tthan anyone else, a strategy that really shows that you know them intimately, you know everything about them, and when you give a gift, you really go above and beyond and show that this is like a personalized gift, customized to them. That's the type of thing that matters. It's not necessarily the dollar amount. A really wealthy person, you can't give, a Lamborghini, right? You can't give this like gigantic, expensive gift. You can give something, small and meaningful, and that's the point that you need to figure out. So category number one for like impactful gifts is around philanthropy, and this is where you should know what your clients care about. Wealthy people give more than the mass affluent. So if you're working with wealthy people, if they give more, who do they give to? And if you can get that information, that's wonderful. Secondly, are they volunteers? Are they on the board? Do they roll up their sleeves in some way to help an organization? Really impactful to know that information. So that's kind of one category. You capture that stuff in your CRM. You should actually have a column in there related to philanthropic information. One thing is be careful about just dumping things into notes, because if you learned something 5 years ago in the notes, it gets kind of buried every time you have a meeting or a conversation, and the notes are going to make that go farther and farther down, so you're not going to see it as well. Especially with note takers and AI, they're going to be more robust than they've ever been before. So it's going to be paragraphs and paragraphs, if not pages, of information you have to go through. So it's not okay. It's okay to have it in the notes, but a column in your CRM, or field, whatever you want to call it, is something you can run a report on. Like, hey, who do our clients care about? What type of causes? What specific charities? That type of stuff. All right, so back to gift number one, the concept is know what they care about and then align with them and make them feel appreciated. So, hey, you've been with us for 10 years. Thank you so much. Here's our mug with our logo on it. Not a great experience, right? But like, hey, we just want you to know we wrote a check to your charity because you mean so much to us. And we wanted to help your charity just like you've helped our business. Like that, whatever the messaging is, you kind of get the point. That's going to make a huge wow factor. It's going to really bring you guys closer. The client relationship is going to prosper. It's gonna be one of those things that they're so happy about you, they probably rave about you, etc. And retention shouldn't be an issue if you do these little things right, because they're always going to want to be with you. I would call that the loyalist, if you remember in a previous conversation. But then you want them raving about you. So this could be something that they go to the cocktail party and they're saying how cool is it that they made this donation. And it doesn't have to be just where they volunteer too. It could be you track just, how did your parents or your grandparents pass away, and there was some heart issue or heart complication. Maybe you do that check or that donation to that specific group that supported the person that passed away. Maybe there isn't a specific group, so you can kind of find a charity in that category. So all along the spectrum, there's usually some kind of philanthropic organization that has supported a family in some way, whether they volunteer, or whether they give, or whether they've just had someone have some health issues, or maybe even sometimes they've founded things. So figure out what that is, and then figure out what to do from a donation standpoint. There's a couple things that you can do. You can actually write the check and then just put in a card that we made a donation in your honor, and you come up with the right words. You don't even have to tell them the dollar amount. I think that is okay. Like if it's a $10 check, if you're on a low budget, you don't have to write the biggest check in the world. It's just the thought that counts. Sometimes if it is a significant amount, you might want to let your client know the amount, especially if they sit on the board or if they have some way where they're going to find out that dollar amount. Another thing to do is, there's kind of ways to give. One is donations. Two is your experience, like share your knowledge. So you can say you're going to help the charity in some way based on your knowledge. And then three is a volunteering and rolling up your sleeves. And you can actually invite others. So let's say we're going to do a charity day at this such and such organization and help paint I've done these things before where I've painted the boys' room at schools or whatever the charity is. So that can be really impactful. It doesn't always have to be a physical item. That could be the gift. I spoke about that one a lot for a gift idea, because I think right out of the gates that may be one of the best gift ideas that you should consider. Number two is align with their passions. So think about what do they care about besides the charity and philanthropy? Is it sports? Is it some kind of social activity, theater, whatever it might be? What do they really love? And this is where if you work with a couple, a traditional male and female relationship, they might have completely two different interests. So if you want to give a gift, you kind of have to know both of these. But there are times where someone is just like a crazy sports fan. They go to all the games, professional games, or they like to watch it on TV or whatever it might be. And you just, as you become closer and closer to your clients, you find this stuff out. Maybe you hang out with them socially. If you get invited to their house, you kind of get a feel for how they decorate certain rooms and all that type of stuff. So you can figure out what these passions are. So let's just stick with sports. Sports are a pretty obvious one. If you think about their favorite team, there are all kinds of gifting ideas. And this is where you might get them a spatula. There's some that like carve the logo out into the metal. And that's really cool, right? They might already have a spatula, right? But now they don't have one that has that type of logo on it. That's something they might have out all the time. And guess what? Every time they're flipping a burger or a steak or whatever it might be, they're thinking about you because you've given them kind of a cool gift that resonated with their team. If it goes over really well, you can actually, if you do gifts on an annual basis, you can think about how do you come up with something related to that team, or you drift off. I'm a Boston sports guy. Like you could drift off to all the different major sports teams around whatever that client cares about, if they're that type of person. But let's just say it is football. So you got the spatula idea. Maybe the female would prefer a blanket. That's where the jacket might be kind of more well received and worn more rather than your logo. It's the sports team's logo. So you get the gist. Think about what they're passionate about, and then align your gift strategy around what they really love. And guess what? The thing I would like in this case is it's not perishable. It's not like a one-use thing. This is something that they're going to see over and over and over again, and it's going to remind them about how close your relationship is. So that's a good idea, unless, of course, that sports fan is a Yankees fan. Then skip that idea and go right to this third idea. The third idea is giving a nice frame. And if you have a photographer at one of your events, we've talked about this before, or if you have a way that you can even go download something off of Facebook if they posted a really cool picture, a little bit creepy, but it's still, you can do it. And just put a really nice note on the back of the frame and give them that, hopefully a frame with a picture in it. It doesn't have to have the picture. You can put a note in there in the front behind the glass that says, hey, I know you're such a great family person. This frame was intended for you to, your next really fantastic picture that you take with your family. Now you have a frame to put something right into it. There are all kinds of ways you can go with frames. It is nice to kind of get their style and know what they like, but something simple is probably the best, so you don't offend anybody and it'll fit kind of in any room. But a higher end one, not just a piece of plastic junk. On the back, you can write a note and tape that there that said, hey, you mean so much as a client, blah, 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 blah. Come up with kind of something poetic if you want. But the point is, you put something on there, sign your name or all the team names, whatever, and just let them know that you appreciate their business or you appreciate teaming up or partnering, whatever the wording is. Guess what? Every time they move that to dust it, or every time they rearrange their furniture and put the frame somewhere else, or maybe even update the picture, they're going to look at the back of that. They're not going to see it all the time, but the picture, when they're, ideally if it's in the family room where that's where they spend the most amount of time, you now kind of have this wow factor that they remember that you gave them that frame, and that is going to be pretty powerful. There are frames out there that have kind of cool messages too. It's a little cheesy, but like something as simple as just like family, you could put that in there. But it might be something that is even more poetic, like, kind of a famous saying or something along those lines. That you can tie in and with that person and how they kind of, what their personality is, what they care about the most. So the frame might be a bigger hit that way. Those are a little bit cheesy because some people wouldn't want words on it. Some people would. So you got to know your client. And even back on the sports theme too, you can get sports-related frames too. And take a picture of somebody tailgating outside a big stadium or cheering at a big game or something like that. So the frame is kind of a cool idea. Idea number 4 is a kind of a newer one, is the digital frame. They've been around for a while, but I think they're really cool now. The costs have come down. They kind of can be pretty good size. There's easier ways to program them. And so you can actually, again, download some images for them, or they can do it themselves. If they're older, they might not use it, or they might re-gift it. But if you kind of show them how cool that is to have these pictures scroll through, you can have this wow factor, but that's going to be maybe the most prized frame they have in their whole house, right? Because it's a limited amount of real estate, but it's showing a lot of great things. And you know what? It's a conversation starter every time someone comes over to the house too, because they get kind of sucked in and watching the slideshow go through of all the cool pictures. And that's one of those things where you want people to say, hey, yeah, my financial advisor, my professional that I use, whatever, gave me that gift. And then that other person becomes almost a prospect, right? They could be like, oh, wow, I never got a gift like that before. So that's another one to think about. I think that if you could make it a little bit easier and upload some of those pictures, so if you had a photographer, at least just to get it started, and then simplify the instructions if it's too hard for them to do, or actually just, if they open the gift and they're like, oh, this is kind of cool, but then you say, hey, let's do it together, and you actually help them download the images. Usually now you're logging into a website and giving it access to the pictures you want, and you just kind of take your time and scroll through. That can be a long process, but if they do it right, that gift's going to be that much better to them, and so they'll have at least 10 good pictures if you kind of sit with them doing that, that they'll regularly look at. So that's a really impactful gift if you're looking for something kind of cool. Gift idea number 5 is related to those kind of physical items that I had talked about and how cool those can be because they're out. The idea for this one is a coffee table book. So something that they would have out on display. Imagine kind of this thick book that is maybe like taller than a foot long. It's pretty sizable. That's why they can be kind of expensive, but you can find them cheaper. But know what that person cares about. Again, sports theme, we could keep that theme continuing going. Like Fenway Park, for example, I have one in my house that's the 100th anniversary of Fenway Park. It was a really cool book that I have and signed copy of it. But that's not something that you have to do. It doesn't have to be sports. I'll give you a really cool example. I had given this advice to one of my clients to give to their clients. And we brainstormed about that client and how would you make the connection. They were Irish, and they were one of their big pieces of who they were was they really connected well with the heritage, and they wanted that family history of where they came from to be something in the modern day culture of their kids and their grandkids. So we came up with the idea of the coffee table book from Ireland and inscribed something in the front of the book that was a really nice note. And sure enough, they did put it out on their coffee table, and when they would have guests over, it was right there. Well, I think they had a guest over that was a wealthy person. My client was in the other room making a drink for the person, and they had a little time to kill, so they opened up the book. And usually those books have this big white page in the front of them, and there was a really nice note there. And so the person read this note, was like, oh, you know what? I don't get this from my professional, and it actually became a lead. Like that person wanted to, in this case, work with a financial advisor because they had written this really kind of cool thing to their client, and so the other friend became a prospect. How cool! But again, all those other things I said, the benefits of like seeing it, and every once in a while the brain's going to trigger like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool that came from. My person that knows me really well, that professional that I work with, cares about me, knows me, and so the gratitude is going to be reoccurring. Like that feeling of being appreciated isn't just a one-time thing that disappears. So I like that it's not like a fleeting, like just one little taste of something and then it disappears, and the next day you kind of forget about it. This is something that has a little bit more of a longer shelf life. Sometimes I work with new businesses and they're kind of in tight budgets and they're trying to be cost effective in their decisions. And so one of the ideas I like if you're in that scenario is a homemade recipe book. So let's just say you have a firm of 10 different people. right before, let's say there's a gifting strategy, you want to do this around Thanksgiving to make your clients feel appreciated. It doesn't have to be Thanksgiving, but it could be Valentine's Day, or it could be whatever kind of holiday that you want to make up or associate with. So you come up with this strategy of all the people in the room kind of brainstorm their favorite dishes, and some of them are ones they curated on their own. Some you picked them up in a magazine or online. Other ones it's been passed down for generations and generations. So you kind of create a template of what the recipe would look like, and then you build it out. And so you can have a fun day with your associates, say, hey, everybody bring in this dish, and we'll see if it's worthy of making it the recipe book. That's kind of a fun thing. You don't have to do that. But you put this recipe book together. When you print it, before you bind it, you actually kind of have the formal cookbook type of stuff. Maybe you put a photo in it of it, what it looks like. But then you can put a little note. Maybe it's handwritten or it's typed. Hey, this is Alicia at such and such company. This is our favorite dish that we have at the Thanksgiving. It came from my great-great-grandmother back in such and such country. And it's one of those dishes that it's a holiday favorite or whatever you want to do. And then, maybe a little smiley face or whatever like that is pretty cool, right? And then so you put a whole bunch of those things together. Try to format it so it looks professional, but it doesn't. Part of the allure of this is that it is a homemade thing. And maybe you do different colors of paper as long as you can read what the recipe is. And then you bind it, maybe have kind of a cool cover, and then you give these out to your clients. And then this is something that is one of those things that is for everybody, so it's not customized to the individuals. But it is something that they feel special because it is personally made. Like kind of those homemade things have that wow factor. And it doesn't have to be a recipe book. It can be anything that you can kind of create. If you have some skill in the wood shop area or whatever it might be, like if you could create gifts, that's kind of cool. But this is one that I think everybody has a favorite recipe, and it's not that hard to pull it together. Idea number 7 is one I would say cautiously go into this one. But they're adults, people drink. You can give them the drink of their choice. This can be good, can be bad. Obviously, if you just kind of do it without knowing your clients and you find out they're an alcoholic, like that's a horrible experience that's going to backfire on you. But you maybe have gone out with them socially and they always order the same vodka or gin or wine or whatever it might be. And you just kind of make a little note to yourself and then you eventually put it in your CRM. That's kind of cool to get that holiday gift. I like the kind of the spirits, the bigger bottle approach as opposed to wine or champagne. Champagne is a little bit better than wine, but wine I think is just, it's one evening and gone, where a big bottle of alcohol might last for a long period of time, depending on how much they drink. But you can actually, if you did that, so in this example, let's just say it's a high-end bottle of rum. And so on the rum bottle, there's usually the company logo or whatever brand image. You can cover that up with your little message, maybe not your logo, because I don't know if you want your brand to be associated with alcohol, but the handwritten message, like, hey, every time you have this, I hope you feel appreciated, that you're such a meaningful client, great client of ours, whatever it might be. So every time they take that out, they are going to be thinking about you. The other cool thing is they probably take it out when they're being social. So if wealthy people hang around with other wealthy people, guess who are coming over to their house to have a cocktail with them? So that's something that might not be the right fit for all, but it's something that you might want to consider. And it's just, again, knowing your client and knowing what they really like. I saw someone recently on a side note, on their birthday, got a gigantic case of Diet Coke. And I heard her say that she felt so appreciated that she got this gift because the person knew her better than anyone else. And I wanted to write it down and use it as an example. It doesn't really matter what that gift is or what they consume. It's just that you knew them, and that's how you make that connection, and that's what makes the gift effective. The next idea, again, is a little crafty, and this is where I like those things that that are displayed. And so again, maybe this is a limited budget, depends on how expensive the ingredients are, or the kit or whatever you need to put this stuff together. But let's say at the holidays you want to create ornaments, and you're a family-oriented person, and you have your kids paint them, or you have all the kids of the employees in the office have a fun day to come in and do like a craft fair. They get to take home one, but they paint 3 for people to use, and so your clients get something that looks all glittery and goofy and not perfect at all, right? Because it's kid created, but you put in a message. Hey, I wanted you to know how important you are. That my daughter, who's 6 years old, helped create this for me. And it can have a wow factor with the right person. Some people might be wasted on, but that homemade type of thing. Same thing you can do like a frame and have them paint the frame. You can go and do all these pottery classes and create different things there too. So you can have a lot of fun as like an associate thank you if your company is really family oriented and they have younger kids or younger grandkids, and do something fun. But then you can spin that into a gift for your clients. Again, the right types of person, it might be a wow factor. It could be missed on other people, so it's not a perfect fit for everybody, but it's something to consider. Along those lines, too, a subset of that idea is to just create cards, and so you have a thank you card, but you have the front all kid decorated, right? So you have kids at the office day and they get to job shadow or whatever, but to entertain them, you have like a whole coloring display and you have them decorate the outside of the cards. And that could be kind of cool then to flip up the note and wrote, hey, thank you so much, you mean so much to me. By the way, this card was created by X, Y, and Z's daughter or son, and that could be pretty cool. You don't want it to be a sweatshop where like, oh, you got to bang out 10 cards each and they all have a quota. There are some kids that are just going to stick with one the whole time. So this is where you might want to have some fun and actually do something that they would repeat. So maybe like dipping their hand in paint and then stomping their hand on the front of a card. They might do 10 or 20 of them really fast, and then whatever it might be that you do kind of in masses like that. You can, I don't know if you've seen those where you turn the hand into a turkey and have the adults help a little get it to where it needs to be finished. But you can add that as something to do in that homemade category. The next idea is related to kids too. I got this from a senior executive in the financial services world. I had just had a son, and he sent me a book. The book was My Very Own Name was the name of the book. And as you open up the book, each page is a letter of that person's name. So if my name is Mike, it would be M would be the first letter, and it might be a moose on that page, and then it says something with an I, and then a K and an E, right? That's a really short name, but the longer the name, the more pages in the book. So if you know the first and last name, that's pretty cool. I can tell you as a parent, we read that book to my son all the time, and it really was one of those things where, again, inscribed in the front, but it was very personalized. And again, gifting doesn't have to be this seasonality thing that happens every November 25th or every December 10th around the holidays. It could be these little milestones that happen in people's lives. So remembering birthdays. The first birth, when a new baby arrives, is a fantastic time to give a gift. But then you put it in your CRM and you capture that, oh, by the way, the daughter just turned 5. I can tell you another client of mine, so this is kind of cool. I got some ideas from my clients, sent a princess dress from Disney for my daughter. And oh my goodness, she loved it. And it wasn't a gift for me, it was a gift for my daughter, but I felt so appreciated that she gave it to me to give to my daughter, right? So a whole bunch of really cool ideas you can do related to that next generation, or G3 if they have grandkids, or in some cases, great-grandkids. Idea number 10 comes from, you know it, the Christmas Vacation Classic that is Cousin Eddie says, "Oh, Clark, that's the gift that keeps on giving." And if you remember, Clark got something from his company that was the Jelly of the Month Club. I'm not saying give your clients specifically the Jelly of the Month Club, but what I like about that idea is that you get something throughout the year about something that they would really love. So it can be food related. It could be a magazine related to something that they would like to read or keep up with. So again, back to sports. I think that was gift number 2 is maybe related to the team that they like or the sport that they like. And so it doesn't have to be magazines. It doesn't have to be food. Come up with something that just kind of repeats and keeps coming. So every time that it comes, there's just a kind of wow factor. I've seen like the Sock of the Month Club, and it kind of comes with this kind of unique sock with a little saying, and it's just kind of fun. That might be goofy, but what is something that could drip on these people over and over? Hopefully this top 10 list, and there's a whole bunch more ideas that you could have for gifts, but hopefully this list has at least spurred your thoughts to give something a little bit more heartfelt, that's going to make a bigger connection, show your clients that you love them, that you know them better than anyone else, and things will prosper from there. And I guarantee you, gifting should be something that could really increase your success. I hope you consider that. Again, this is Mike Byrnes. It's been another episode of Business Bests. Thanks for tuning in.